Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bell. Today we have with us, Steve Linzenbolt, the principal of the Knollwood School, and we have Mr. Jeff Martens, the principal of the Troy Hill School. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Today we're going to talk about parent, student, teacher-led conferences. So without further ado, I would like to know, why are parent, teacher, student conferences important?
They're important because it's a direct line of communication between our teachers, the students, and the parents all together.
Okay.
So we try to really make that a team approach. And it's just an opportunity to celebrate the growth of our students progressing forward, even some of the challenges, in a very friendly and supportive way. And really overall just to talk about their social and emotional growth throughout the school year.
And in years past, how's the feedback been for that, Steve?
I think it's been incredibly positive, and have to really contribute that to the way that our teachers communicate with parents and the way that our parents communicate back with our teachers. And I think that really adds to make it a successful platform.
Excellent. How can parents and teachers create a positive environment for the conference? What can they do? Is there steps they could take?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important part is to really just know that it's a team approach. That we're all in this together. And it's about growth in the student. We're all in a safe place. It's an opportunity to ask questions. Mm-hmm. And that's it. It's really to address the positives and celebrate the good things students are doing, and have a friendly conversation about challenges that could be met in different ways and how we can work together as a team to make improvement.
That's it.
But I think what's important, what Steve said, is it's celebrating even the small achievements. If a student's having trouble reading, instead of focusing on the trouble in reading, maybe they're having trouble memorizing their sight words, but then they've memorized 5 of them. Well, celebrate that so that, they can get the next 10, 15, etc.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Martens, when you're on that note, what's the difference between a traditional parent-teacher conference and the student-led conference, less the student being there? Do you see a big difference? Like, what is the... Tell the audience about the format.
Well, the traditional teacher parent conference is a linear line with the teacher and the parent. The student, who the conference is about, isn't involved, whereas the student-led conference allows the student to take a little more ownership of their learning. It brings them in on what's being discussed. Mm-hmm. The traditional conference, a lot of times the parent will go home then and say, well, your teacher told me this. In this instance, your child's telling you what they're learning, what they, what they're having difficulty with, and maybe set a goal with the parent there, and how they can remedy those difficulties.
So on that note, is there like a letter that you send home to parents how they can prepare for a student-led teacher conference?
So the teachers send home, some of them will send home a letter. There's not a lot of preparation for the parent to do, except to just keep an open mind and, as Steve said, keep a very team approach. The teacher will do the preparation with the students in class. They'll give them a self-reflection sheet. They'll go through their subjects and determine what they're strong at. They'll find areas that they need improvement, and then they'll set goals for the next trimester of maybe what can they do to help remedy the difficulties they're having. So the parent, when they're there, should just really ask questions of their child if they have any.
Ask questions. What types of questions do you think are appropriate? Is there any questions that you think that they shouldn't be asking? Like, in other words, like where should the focus be? What types of questions should they be asking?
If the student's presenting material and the parent's confused about it or something comes up, I say ask the child right there, because the teacher's there, and the teacher then, if the child's having trouble answering it, the teacher will jump in and answer it. So, I don't see any question as off limits, except keep it based on the academic and the emotional growth of the child, the social.
What kind of avenue do we want to stay on?
Yeah, you want to stay focused. Right. It's 15 minutes. 15 minutes goes very quickly. So if you start going off topic, that's when the conferences start running over.
Is there a follow-up to a student-led parent conference?
There can always be a follow-up. So there's always that additional form, and as Mr. Martens said, the 15 minutes goes very quickly.
Sure.
So parents are always encouraged that if they have further questions or they want to have further discussion on anything, the good thing is, our teachers are great about sending out almost daily communication at times. They can always set up an additional phone conference. When time is free, they can set up an additional conference at time. So just because there are parent-teacher conferences scheduled only a couple times a year, there's always that opportunity to set one up.
Okay. What have you seen? How have teachers prepared for a student parent-teacher conference with relation to just a regular parent-teacher conference?
So, a regular parent-teacher conference, it's the teacher preparing what they're going to say to the parent. Whereas with the student, they'll give a self-reflection form. They'll go through that. They'll meet with the student prior, see if they agree with what the student said as far as their areas of growth and their areas of strength and what they need to work on. So it's and they're a facilitator. Whereas the teacher, parent-teacher conference, the teacher's the main person doing it with the parent. So this way, they're a facilitator helping the child communicate. Now, in K-2, I know at Troy Hills and other schools too, they get a choice whether they want to do student-involved conference. I like to call it student-involved because sometimes it's not necessarily student-led. In the younger grades, just even having the student there listening to it, they're hearing the same thing that the parent is that the teacher's saying.
Yeah. And they know that they're talking about them. There's some ownership there.
Right. They know they're talking about them. Sometimes the student will share how their parent can help them at home. Sometimes they need a quiet place to do their homework. But they haven't said it ahead of time to the parent. They haven't said, I need that place. But in this format, it allows them a safety to share.
Sure. And the student takes some responsibility, right? And you're building ownership responsibility in your work.
Yes. And communication skills.
And communication skills.
Between
Absolutely.
teacher, student, parent, student, and then, teacher, parent.
Now, Steve, do the students, are they prepared in any way prior to the conference? Like, do the teachers have like a lesson with them? Like, how do the students get prepared for this?
So a couple different ways.
Okay.
So students have, collections of some of their work samples throughout the course of the year.
And
Teachers,
they're allowed to grab those that they want?
they're absolutely allowed to grab some of those work samples and share it and talk about, how they could improve on it.
Sure.
Or it might just be a piece of work that they're very proud of that they've accomplished throughout the course of the year.
Yeah.
So I
That's
know our
great.
teachers, a lot of them send out like a reflection sheet ahead of time.
Ahead of time. Okay.
So the students will do some really specific reflection and writing, based on some of their probing questions that really prepare for that conversation to take place.
And I know we started this a few years ago. What's the feedback been from the teachers that you've seen?
Well, sometimes, at first I think it's anything new is a little difficult to start.
Sure.
But once they see how the conversation's going between all three parties, they see the necessity of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they get done with the conference, teachers, I mean, is there like a common planning time that they can talk about some of the let's say questions that they were asked? Let's say they could talk about some of the answers, some of the worksheets, not the worksheets, but the work samples that they were provided. Do the teachers get common time to talk?
Well, they always have common time every day that they can meet with their grade level colleague or other colleagues in the school and say, if they want to talk about the strengths of it or something maybe they didn't have an answer to, and they were just kind of like, would you answer that? So there's always that time.
Sure. And when are the student-led conferences, student-led parent-teacher conferences, when are they generally set to begin?
So they'll begin, after the preparation work, the reflection sheets, and student work samples are prepared. The day that the scheduled conferences are set, and typically they're pretty back-to-back, 15 minutes, they're pretty quick, but they'll start right away, depending on whether the parent and the student were comfortable with signing up to have that combination conference. Sure. They'll get going right away.
And this year they're October 28th, 29th, and 30th, right before Halloween.
They happen one time during the year?
2 times during the year.
2 times during the year.
And it's flexible. It's every afternoon on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this year, and then one evening. So if you can't make the afternoon, you can make an evening. Also, if parents are at work and can't leave work, they can choose to do a virtual conference.
Virtual's an option
So
as well.
that makes it
That's
very
great.
easy
Yeah.
from their desk.
Yeah.
They get 15 minutes.
Absolutely. Do you guys have any conferences that stood out for being so successful that you remember? Have you seen Is there a conference that you had in October and the growth was, just outstanding from October to April? Can you think of any?
I don't have one in particular, but I do, I do see where the students, maybe if they've met a lot of the goals that they established, they're proud because the teacher's telling them what a great job they did, the parents telling them, and they're there having both people tell them what a great job they did.
Similarly, I can always say I'm very impressed by the way that students are prepared. In any of the conferences that I've seen where you have a parent, a teacher, and a student in there, they're just very well prepared.
Sure.
And again, they're developing those important public speaking skills too.
Yeah.
On the surface level, which is nice.
Bob, you had asked before about what parents can do to prepare for the conference, and I do want to say if they think about their child's progress or an area of difficulty that they're having, create one or two questions that they really want answered during that conference.
Sure.
So that they're going in focused and get the answer to those one or two questions.
Right.
Versus coming in not having anything prepared and then they leave going,
I should have asked this
I should have asked it.
I should have asked this question. Yeah. Well, that's great. Maybe that's something that we can look at for maybe next time, putting together questions that may be appropriate for parents, or we could put that, FAQ together for
Great
them.
idea.
Yes, that's
Because
a good idea.
that might be helpful, Well, you guys have covered a lot, and you certainly have, been informative. Is there any questions that you had for me or that you would like to talk to the audience about?
No, I don't have any questions for you, but I think the parent-teacher conferences are coming up, so I think we're getting our students prepared and the teachers prepared. They've already got their slot set, so we're looking forward to the collaboration that'll take place on those days.
Nice.
Coming up.
And Bob, but I just want to add that the conferences are done before the progress report.
Okay.
They're
important.
scheduled that way on purpose because it's not talking about the grades on the progress report, but talking about the child's progress toward grade level standards.
Sure.
So parents will see this year the progress report is changed a little bit. Instead of 4, 3, 2, 1s, which were used and
Standard grading procedures, right?
yes, now it'll be ES for exceeds or MS for meets standards. So but it's basically they all mean the same thing.
Sure.
And something important, is if a child gets 100 on a test, a math test, say, per se, that doesn't mean that they're a 4 or what was a 4 now in ES. It means they met the standards for that test.
Sure.
The ES is they're doing work that's maybe above grade level, or that they're applying critical thinking skills in their answers.
Yeah. I think it's important to, for parents to understand that, if their child doesn't pick up on, an idea or a subject, right away, the idea is we want to be patient, right? And we want to raise good, productive people for our society. And that should be the area of focus. Shouldn't be worrying about what others are doing. And as I try to tell people, shouldn't be worrying about what anybody else is doing. You should worry about how your child is behaving, how your child is acting at school, how your child is basically just coming into their own and supporting them. Right. That's what this is about. The education piece comes, but we really want to focus on building that good student that is kind to all people.
Yes.
That's what I think of.
Absolutely.
The focus of elementary school really should be. Because if we can get that piece down, we are doing an excellent job. So I don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything else?
I don't.
No, I think we're good.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Well, thanks for having
Welcome to goodbye to another episode of Beyond the Bell. Don't forget, tune in.